And here we are at the top right-hand corner of the map. Daybreak, we have our purple Zerg player from Team Liquid. It is Sheth. And his opponent here in the lower left-hand corner from Pulse Esports, the orange Protoss player and winner of game number 1, Desrow.
Yeah, Desrow pulling out the Void Rays in the previous game, something that I was not expecting, and apparently Sheth was not expecting it either. He got a face full of laser beam. I mean, he did scout that first Void Ray with his overlords, but basically Desrow just kept building them. I think Sheth was preparing more for Phoenixes and was a little bit surprised when he got to that third base, when Desrow got to that third base with quite a lot of gateway units in tow and 4 Void Rays. So Desrow already starting off now by dropping a pylon on the low ground. Sheth, of course, going to keep droning up. No 10 pool for him just yet. Actually, still could, I guess, but with that Overlord, it's looking not as likely.
Nope, of course, just going to go for that very standard, especially on this map. 3 hatch before gas. This map is especially good for it. If you take a look at the third base, let's look at it from Desrow's perspective. You have a pretty wide opening here and a secondary attack path ran through here, so it can be a little bit difficult to hold on to. The biggest part, of course, being that there's no real ramp down to low ground outside of your natural. There's this big open space that also leads off to the third, so there's a great potential for Zerg players to kind of stage up their forces here, I guess. So a little bit harder to hold on to a third base, and Zerg players like to take advantage of that.
That's right. With Desrow, though, you know, we haven't actually cast a lot of his games here on IPL, so I'm not too familiar with his style. What I do remember from a while back is that he tends to favor gateway-heavy builds. I think he had 7 off of 2 bases in that previous game. So that is more or less what I would expect. I think his Warp Prism play is pretty good as well, as it tends to be when you do favor those heavy Warp Gate plays. So that's the kind of thing I'm looking out for. Most likely not going to see 2 Stargate builds in a row. It could happen, but you know, most Zerg players are going to be wary of that anyway, and with Desrow already establishing his second base here, it's just not as likely. So we'll see if Sheth is going to continue to do the normal Zerg thing and try to take a third base very quickly as well, and if Desrow will try to keep up with it, or if he will just try to punish it by making a whole bunch of gateways and going after him. But with that Forge coming up, he does have the possibility of, you know, adding +1 weapons very quickly and attempting any kind of gateway sort of crush into Sheth's base. But at the moment, still everything just looking pretty peaceable.
Yeah, Sheth going to make sure that there's no probes messing around with his third base, and he will find such a probe here. That probe will actually move away in a second.
Such a probe.
That's such a probe.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Don't be such a probe. Always trying to build stuff and harass and
constructively move the Protoss army forward.
Establishing bases on alien territories.
Despicable.
Terrible.
Well, the photon cannon's going to finish. Of course, Sheth's not going to be able to get in there and do all that much. Pylon gets canceled. Necessary 25 minerals lost, though, just to make sure that he would remain as safe as possible.
Run, probe. Oh, he does still have a way in.
Yeah.
He can mineral walk right through there. Not a big deal.
Weird
score. Yeah, it was like, there's a thing in my way. It's kind of weird that, like, when a Protoss building is warping in, it's kind of just spherical.
Yeah.
And you can't get around it. Like, you just bump your head into the invisible sides of it. But it looks like there's plenty of room for something to walk around.
Yeah, you would think right through
just
here.
Slip right in, but
good little space, especially Zergling just run underneath. Like I could understand you can't like run a Colossus through here because it would hit the warp in and then you'd lose part of your leg or it'd get sent back to Ire.
Say, maybe units just don't want to risk it because it could finish at any second and just totally smash them.
Yeah.
So
but when faced with certain death or risking the warp in, wouldn't you rather just run past the warp in?
Probably.
Okay.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Or if you park yourself under it, maybe it's not able to warp in because you're already occupying the space. Who knows?
Oh, no.
One unfortunate ling will find out someday what happens in that situation. But
I fear for that day.
Yep. Warp Gate tech already coming in for Desrow. We've got Zealot Zergling battles happening. If Desrow can get us back to that debris, he could actually have battled a couple of those lings, but instead keeps him alive for another fight. Oh, there's that Stargate, that unlikely Stargate that I mentioned. So Desrow still just going with what works. If you'll notice, Sheth's Overlord coverage is not near what it was in the previous game. He does have one pretty close by to be able to sack around the 8-minute mark, I would assume, just to try and look for a robotics facility. Desrow should be aware that. Actually, no, he's moving a little bit earlier here on both sides, into the natural and into the main.
Okay, so Sheth with those 2 Overlords should be able to get a pretty good read on what's going on. No, Desrow actually going to back him away from this one. We'll see if Sheth, he's far enough out now that the Stalker may just outright kill that. Yeah, so he's just going to try and see what he can see and see if he gets over there and picks up on this Stargate technology.
It's getting close. Oh no!
Oh, he sees something warping in.
If he was paying attention to it at that moment, he would have seen the Stargate chrono boost.
Yeah.
But if he wasn't, and tabs back over there now, he's not going to see it. There is a pylon over there, which is kind of weird. A weird spot for pylon in the back like that, unless you were going to hide some tech. So I don't see an evolution chamber or spore crawlers being built, unfortunately. So I don't think he did actually see the Stargate.
Well, there's the evolution chamber now, so but that's obviously pretty normal time right now. I mean, he's got 2 gas up, and he's allocated enough of that.
He's getting layer pretty quick too. That's a good anti-air measure.
Yeah, so he's going to have a total 67 drones here in a second with layer tech, all of his upgrades in place, and should be fine as far as that's concerned. Zergling's actually going to get pretty far in here, though, and doesn't look like they're going to pick up on anything new.
Oh, they're going to just get splattered on the pavement. And wow, Desrow really switching it up this time, going for 3 quick Phoenixes instead of those 4 Void Rays that we saw last time. So the Phoenixes soon, probably once that 4th gets completed, they'll be marauding around looking for free Overlords. There's 2 in the bottom right for Sheth that would be open to Desrow if he actually manages to find them. And he is actually flying straight towards one of them.
Yes.
So should at least be able to pick off 1, if not both, of those Overlords. Or just, you know, not wasting any time going to the drone line is also a great idea. So we've got 4 Spore Crawlers total coming up for Sheth. They could also lift that Queen and try to do some destruction there. The Spore Crawler is going to finish, and it's targeting the one with the Graviton Beam, but the Queen is finished off. Desrow may lose 1 Phoenix. No, actually able to pick up even more drones and do more damage at this 3rd base.
Hey, he's done a pretty good job with this. And he's going for that little more traditional strategy where he's already put down his robotics bay, or his robotics facility, I'm sorry, and could go into robotics bay right afterwards, trying to switch tech after he shows the initial Phoenixes. But Sheth's not biting on it. He's actually going to take out this 3rd base here, and it looks like he's already forced a cancel on most of the structures, and will force a cancel on this Nexus. No, he just kills it, and that's a lot of resources lost for Desrow, but Sheth not biting on Hydralisk, just going straight to Infestors.
Yeah, I remember back in the day when they didn't have that canceled animation that showed how many minerals he got back. It was always a question whether he actually got the cancel or not. That one actually fooled me a little bit, but Desrow with some nice force fields manages to keep basically his entire Gateway Force alive and slaughters those Lings of Sheth. Desrow actually ahead in supply now as a result of that trade.
Right, but you know, Sheth's obviously banking resources and economy now to move up into his Infestor tech a little bit quicker. He himself, he lost a lot of Lings, but he killed a Nexus, canceled 2 Photon Cannons, picked off a Sentry and a Zealot. So it was certainly a trade worth making, and he would do that again over and over again. More Lings coming out now, Pathogen Glands on the way, and in 10 seconds he'll be able to start putting up those Infestors.
All right, so the Phoenix's value is going to be mostly in killing Overlords at this point, as he really can't situate himself near those Spore Crawlers anymore. There's just going to be too many of them and too much time for Queens to come be able to respond to that. There is a Void Ray actually already trying to power down this 4th base of Sheth. Sheth with Pathogen Glands only about halfway done does not have any anti-air right now to be able to deal with this force of Desrow. He's moving a bunch of roaches across the middle of the map. These Lings are already here. I would imagine he would want to wait, get everything formed up. Were those roaches? Oh no, they were actually just Lings. So he's got a ton of Lings overall running toward this 3rd base of Desrow.
All right, and looks like this base is going to have to get canceled. No, don't lose this one, Sheth. Okay, yeah, he cancels. Not going to make the same mistake Desrow did there, and Sheth's doing a nice job of poking across the map and trying to occupy his attention.
Yep, as all these Lings run in, they're going to be able to pick up a Pylon, which is, you know, something, but he is going to lose a lot of Lings. He also forced out some force fields. Void Ray's still just having fun, trying to power down a hatchery by himself. Don't know that it's going to, you know, I don't know that this is a good idea by Sheth to try and do this when it's going to kill it. It's pretty obvious. He is keeping it busy long enough for these Infestors to come, but it's costing him 75 minerals every time he cancels. Here we go. A couple of Infested Terrans. Going to try and pick off this Void Ray with the combination of the Queen. There's a Fungal and should be enough to seal the deal there. Oh, but he does pick off an Infestor that Sheth did not need to lose there.
And force the cancel of this hatchery a few times. So not the worst Void Ray. And we'll see now as Desrow is pretty well saturated on 3 bases. He's moving up to decent economy late game and has all of his tech in place necessary to, I mean, with the exception of a fleet beacon for an eventual mothership, which he will get if this game goes on long enough, he's got everything pretty well in place. But we have Hive Tech, we have Spire coming out now for Sheth. Little bit delayed, just a tiny bit as he makes 100 lings here to try and put on some pressure with the infestors.
Yeah, he's got 100 lings, and there they are all over the minimap, streaming their way toward Desrow's third, but he's got a little bit of Air Force. Those Phoenixes actually kind of in a weird spot right now, not being active and trying to distract or do anything. He's just keeping them alive so that when he has a force that he can fight with on the ground, those Phoenixes will act as, you know, little pick-me-ups and can grab all the roaches or infestors or what have you that might be hanging around by the time these armies clash. So keeping the Phoenixes alive will allow him to use them a little later on for some high-value targets. We see just mass upgrades coming for Desrow at the moment. He's still ahead in supply in this game. It's crazy.
Okay, well, now Sheth is on, well, let's see, 8 gas, could go up to 10 here momentarily with the available Vespian geysers in the middle of the map. Doesn't have a lot of meat to this army, though.
13 corruptors in production.
That will help, but the splash damage from the Colossi is actually going to be pretty devastating. And Sheth is going to need to control very well to make sure he gets the best possible engagement.
Yep, Desrow's dropping a couple of pylons, not because he wants to expand here, but because this is his first foothold for a big assault on Sheth's half of the map. These 13 corruptors are all just about to finish. Greater Spire already morphing in. Looks like these upgrades for Desrow are not quite done, so this could be kind of scary. If Desrow commits here into attacking, Sheth does have the option of doing a huge amount of lings, sending them over at Desrow's third base. But here we go, Fungals on the Phoenixes, but those high-value targets again, those infestors being lifted, Stalkers blinking underneath to take them out. The Colossi doing a great job against those many, many lings. I can see the Phoenixes actually getting finished off there. A lot of corruptors still in the sky. These Colossi are certainly doomed, but you know, soon Desrow's ground force is going to heavily outweigh Sheth's, and he can just pick off the last of those corruptors. And
a nice job. Okay, a couple of things happened there. One, if you noticed up at the front, as Desrow's actually going to kill a lot of stuff here, the lings all ran in and got slaughtered before the corruptors were able to engage with the Colossi. They were actually shooting the Phoenixes down at first, and you may not think that that's a big deal because, oh, well, he was picking up infestors. You didn't want him to do that, but the problem was, once the buffer of all the lings was gone, the Stalkers could do nothing but just turn their attention towards corruptors, and there's none left on the map, and Greater Spire's done. He wanted to take the available corruptors that were left and just turn them into broodlords, but he can't.
Yep, so Desrow, I mean, he did a great job with his, you know, blink ability. First of all, keeping the Colossi toward the back and distracting those corruptors over the top of the Stalkers, managed to let him finish all of those off, and suddenly Sheth just does not have any fighting forces. We see 8 infestors, 22 wings, 5 roaches all in production, but Sheth is going to lose this third base. He's already in danger of losing more than that. Desrow is going to keep up the warpins at that pylon situated right between the 3rd, 4th, and 5th bases of Sheth. He is actually not even stopping to pick it off. He's got some air units headed over there. It looks like Roach's lings trying to stall out. We saw those infestors dropping fungals all over the Stalkers. It looks like the ones inside the main are going to get cleaned up. Desrow probably wanted to keep these guys together a little bit better just because of the threat of those infestors. Here's a bunch of Stalkers just sitting idle. They could be killing that 5th base right now, but Desrow's focused up here at the front. There he goes, sending those other Stalkers in and using Blink to try and keep that first force alive long enough for them to join up.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a mistake that Desrow didn't kill. I mean, he killed Army. He's way ahead in this game. There's no question about that at all. But I'm a little surprised he didn't try and finish off those bases a bit quicker. He could be 2 hatcheries ahead, or he could have killed 2 hatcheries by this point, in addition to doing basically the same amount of damage he did. So Fleet Beacon's coming up, Storm's coming up. Desrow is in a magnificent position and looking to further it by continuing to take out hatcheries.
Yeah, he's actually not been in danger this whole game. Really good control back at home until he got up to this point. Really good control during the huge Corruptor, Ling, Infestor fight, and I think Desrow could have cleaned out these bottom 3 bases, as you said, just pretty easily, and instead tried to go for the throat when he realized he killed Sheth's main force and that he would have, you know, not really a ton of bank available to be able to stop him. He went to try and end the game instead of just getting further and further ahead, but now he's putting his pieces in place for the late game with that Fleet Beacon. He can start a mothership here very, very soon. Still has a lot of units standing in Sheth's territory.
And this Archon, is actually going to take down the hatchery by itself. Sheth is just on 2 base, and I've got to say, in danger of potentially being eliminated from the GOM World Championship qualifier already.
Yeah, that's actually going to be a big upset, I believe, if this does happen. Sheth did get quite a lot of votes. Desrow was near the lower end of that seeding, but with a possible 2-0 here, that would definitely assert himself as you know, worthy of being in the qualifier. So the votes look like they're working out in his favor at the moment, allowing him a chance to play against Sheth here in the first round and proving his worth. But we've got the mothership coming out now for Desrow. Sheth still reeling after losing a couple of hatcheries. He's down to only 113 supply. All these High Templar are actually going to be great against those infestors if they can drop feedbacks fast enough, and they're going to be great against the lings that Sheth is going to be cranking out with that storm.
And looks like Desrow has taken his 4th base. He's got a lot of gas that's just starting to be mined. He's got 4 workers on there, but hopefully he'll figure that out at this stage of the game, though it doesn't really matter. So now that Desrow has such a commanding position, he doesn't necessarily need to go for the throat, and I think he's making the right decision by sitting back, making sure that he gets his Colossi in place, his mothership gets up, and he can move in for one more killing blow. He's kept tabs on his opponent long enough to know that if he were even to start, say, 3 hatcheries right now at the same time, it would still be a considerable amount of time before the production is realized, and that's exactly the time he needs to finish up the mothership, a couple more Colossi, and move out for a bigger push.
All right, if he can do that, if he can stop Sheth's sort of rally right now, then he can basically just bowl over. The mothership is going to help that quite a lot. This pylon is going to get taken out, but Desrow has another one very nearby, so he can continue to warp in. He can zone with those psionic storms, keep all the units away from him. He's got, what units did Desrow just send? Oh, 3 zealots to make sure that no hatcheries were going to get put up without him knowing about it. And Desrow's main force is going to join up with this mothership that is soon going to be spawning.
Yeah, the mothership's actually done, and it should be rolling its way up. There she is. Hey, Mama Ship. Let's see here, though. Just one Broodlord morphing in to join the one that's already on the map. There are a few infestors there, so while the unit count for Liquid Sheth is low, the units he does have on the map are pretty good, but against this kind of a force, ooh, that is going to be rough.
Yeah, that's definitely tough. What are the upgrades looking like on Desrow? He's got 3-0 upgrades, already getting plus shields rather than armor. Kind of interesting, and 1-0 upgrades for Sheth. He has not been able to keep up on his upgrades. Plus, sorry, not plus 3. 3 Broodlords being morphed in right now for Sheth. That's going to change his composition a bit. He's already got a couple in the air, but Desrow still with a very, very huge death ball waiting at his 4th base. The moment he wants to move out, Sheth is going to have to figure out if he wants to counterattack or if he wants to try and make one last stand.
Okay, well, looks like Desrow's going to move out, and he's going to have just enough for a Vortex whenever he does. And I don't even know if he's going to need it. Sheth's force is fairly low for now. He's going to try and back up to possibly this big, nice prepared position, but loses a lot of links up at the front already. Desrow with a nice blink forward, picks off a couple more roaches, and Sheth needs the defense of his life.
Yeah, he's going to have a tough time of it. These infestors really need to pin this death wall in place for a long time. There are some High Templar in there. There's a Vortex available for Desrow, so he could eliminate the infestors really quickly just by getting them into a Vortex and basically removing them from the map. He probably wants to split this army so they can freely kill half of it, and then when the other half pops out, they'll just be powerless. So here's the Vortex placement. I'm assuming maybe not. It is fungled. He doesn't have a Vortex place yet. And you're right, though. He doesn't seem to need it. And so until that happens, there's the Vortex capturing half of those infested Terrans and some of the air units there. So he is going to put the Archons down into that Vortex. Sheth is in big, big trouble, down to only 100 supply, most of his army inside that Vortex, and Desrow just continues powering forward.
Should pop out right now. The Broodlords just get decimated. Sheth loses the vast majority of his forces. He's down to 80 supply, trying to rally in whatever he can, but it's going to be a while before it produces. There, the GGs, and Sheth has actually been eliminated already in the round of 16. Desrow of Pulse Esports moving on to the round of 8.
Yikes. I mean, Sheth was on that that second place squad from Tech 3, Team Liquid, after